I didn't expect myself to be in this situation, but at 1 o'clock, we were having some people over later in the day. I sat down in front of my TV and actually was glued to Giants-Texans for like a good hour and a half on a Saturday afternoon. And maybe it's because I'm so thirsty for football. Maybe it's because it was a Saturday. It was like a lazy Saturday afternoon. And I found myself watching what Giant fans were watching, and that is Daniel Jones. He threw a brutal pick six. He threw another interception. He also had some great shots downfield. And we can examine everything he did on the field for the first half he was out there. But, Tiki, the thing I can't get past about Daniel Jones is that the Giants told the world during the offseason that they want to replace him.
Yes.
They told everybody.
Right, and it doesn't matter if he plays great.
Yeah.
If he goes out and he doesn't look like he's missed a beat after being on the shelf for 8 months, after tearing his ACL last year, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
It's like, oh, who cares? You know what? It was good that they told him that they were going to replace him because now he's motivated and he's playing fantastic. But the problem is he didn't look fantastic. And it wasn't all his fault. He had pressure on him right away, backed up in the end zone. He has to get rid of the ball, otherwise take a safety, even though it probably was the better thing to do. And he just throws a rookie mistake throwaway that turns into a pick six. And then he throws one later in the next series down. Again, I don't mind that one more because it was a shot he was trying to take to Jalen Hyatt. It just was a great play by the cornerback who undercut it. But when you look at it in statistic form, it just felt ugly from the very beginning of his rebirth back into this Giant offense. And I said this to our group chat, and I think it. I love Daniel Jones as a person. I love what he potentially can be. He gets hard to root for when he plays like that. And it makes you understand, back to your point, why the Giants have this, we need to kind of think about replacing him in their minds. And it came forward in Hard Knocks. And his showing at the beginning of that preseason game, his first action back since his ACL, made you understand why the Giants are looking somewhere else.
Well, and they're going to replace him, like you said, no matter what happens.
Unless he goes to the NFC Championship game or comes to the Super Bowl.
Okay, something stunning happens.
Right, spectacular happens. That's the only way.
That's a weird way to go into a season.
Yeah.
I mean, think back to all the different quarterbacks we've had in this city, and I'll loop in the Jets on this because the Jets have had so many different quarterbacks. The Giants have actually been pretty consistent when you think about Daniel Jones and Eli Manning for the last 2 decades. But usually when you go into a season, you go in with a veteran that you're trying to win with, or you go in with a young player that you're hoping is the long-term answer. Very rarely do you go into a season with a guy that you've announced to the world you're going to replace.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of this weird oddity that the Giant fan has to deal with this season where you're rooting for him because it's a football season. Football seasons are special. You want to win.
And given what's on your roster, who gives you the best chance to win?
No doubt. Like, I definitely agree with that. Like, I think you should play, but they've already told you that if he gets hurt, he's getting replaced. If he plays crappy, he's getting replaced. If he plays well, he's probably getting replaced. Like, they told all of us during the offseason, we like Daniel Jones, but we like other people better.
True.
And that's a weird predicament to start a football season. And that's what I kept thinking as I was sitting there watching Daniel Jones. Yeah, make some mistakes, but also take a lot of shots down the field, which we're going to see this season.
Of course.
There's no doubt that's going to be a part of this Brian Daboll-led, I'm calling the plays offense that no matter what he does, he's going to be replaced.
Yeah, it's why the second interception you don't mind, because that's philosophical. It's we're taking shots. Whether or not you put a perfect throw on it or not, we're taking shots. And we saw it come to fruition later on in the game. He had a great one down the field to Malik Neighbors, which is a ridiculous catch, by the way, because it was like he threw his hands up after the ball was past his head, and he somehow still caught it.
It was incredible.
As I watched it, I said, how did he even know where the ball was? It's like he put his hands just behind his head and caught this thing. But we know that the potential is there for great things to happen, but the actuality of it, we don't trust right now. And so Daniel Jones is in an almost no-win situation for him, because unless it's spectacular, as we were just talking about, he's likely to get replaced. Now, is that a bad thing to be on the edge? No, it's not. Maybe it motivates him. Again, we don't know what it's going to show up as, but I feel like Daniel Jones has to find a way to block out all of this, like, speculative, you're not going to be here, we don't trust you. You're just a placeholder noise. Because we are going to get it every single time.
Yes.
He has a bad day.
You know what else we're going to get about Daniel Jones? And this always drives me nuts, and it already started. It's already going on right now in the middle of August before a real game has been played. Every time Daniel Jones does something, it's going to be studied. Like we're splitting an atom.
Well,
like, Daniel Jones is great. See what I'm talking about? Or Daniel Jones sucks. See what I'm talking about? I think I know what Daniel Jones is. And it feels like sometimes I'm one of the only people around here that pretty much feels confident that I know what he is. He's an average quarterback. If he can stay healthy, sure, he's fine. He's this, he's that. He's not elite. He doesn't suck. It's neither of the extremes. The problem is he's going to be gone at the end of next year.
Yeah.
So we're all going to spend so much energy debating the merits of this man, and yet next year this man is going to be on a different football team, and God knows who his replacement's going to be. I've told you for a while I think it'll be Dak Prescott. I know that bothers you. We'll see. I think it's going to be a veteran. I think it's going to be somebody maybe we're not thinking of. Maybe it's Kirk Cousins. Maybe it's somebody in the draft. Maybe it's Gardner Minshew after he has a big year with the Raiders. I don't freaking know. Here's what I do know, Teak. It ain't going to be him.
Well, and no disrespect to Daniel Jones, because, again, I like him, but he's earned this. And I don't mean that in a negative way, not taking a shot at him. He's earned the scrutiny, because if you're not consistently available or consistently trending towards elite, then you've earned question marks. And so he's just surrounded by question marks. Some of them are not his fault, obviously. Some of them clearly are. And so he's earned this. And the problem is it's what we have. Right? We can sit here and bitch and moan, and I wish we had this guy, and this guy would be better, and throw Tommy DeVito out there, who didn't look fantastic either, in a backup role on Saturday. But whatever we want and think we deserve as Giant fans, after the roster's been built a little bit better, we have Daniel Jones. No matter what you say, that's what we have.
And it is, I admit this, as a sports fan, and there isn't a perfect comparison because quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. But there is something kind of empty as a sports fan watching a season in which you always try to convince yourself you have a shot. That's at least how I am as a fan. I wouldn't say I'm an optimistic fan, but going into a season, I always like to believe, hey, this happens, I can be a playoff team. In fact, here's how deluded I am, and I swear to God I really mean this. Before the basketball season starts this year, I'm going to do that with the Nets, and they're a tanking team.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I am as a sports fan. Like, oh, if this happens and that happens.
But you look at a couple of good players, and you're like, well, if this guy has an all-star MVP level type season, maybe we have a shot.
But you know what's fun about...
By the way, that's exactly what the Giants are. If Daniel Jones has a top 10 QB season, the Giants have a chance.
If their defense can take some leaps and bounds, especially with potentially an elite pass rush, things can work out. They can win 9 games, 10 games, and make the playoffs. We all want to do that as sports fans. The problem is quarterback's the most important position in sports, and your quarterback is temporary. Your quarterback is a Band-Aid. And usually when you have a Band-Aid quarterback, you brought the Band-Aid in because you just drafted somebody young who's eventually going to be the guy. Kurt Warner was a Band-Aid, but guess what? Eli Manning's here. Josh McCown is a Band-Aid, but don't worry, the Jets are tanking, and they're going to draft a quarterback the following year. Those are other examples of Band-Aids, but they always had, like, the solution there with you. Jones is a Band-Aid where the solution for the Giants at quarterback long-term is not here. We could speculate about it all day. It could be someone in the draft. It could be a veteran free agent. It could be somebody we're not thinking of because they're not disgruntled yet. And that's a tough thing as a sports fan when you go into a season hoping for the best, trying to convince yourself you can be a playoff team, and the guy who mans the most important position is temporary because they told us he's temporary.
So it's that Band-Aid that you're just going to leave on for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just never pull it off.
Well, it better be more than 3 weeks. If you're breaking this Band-Aid off in 3 weeks, you're screwed.
In normal, you expand it out, it's for the entire season. In his defense, Daniel Jones has not taken real snaps in 10 months. Right? He's looked great in preseason, not great, but healthy. He's looked healthy in the preseason, but he hasn't taken real snaps until this past weekend, 3 days ago. And so while we can criticize the rust and the bad decisions, he's kind of getting used to it again. Now, should he be making those mistakes? Absolutely not, especially not the first interception. The second interception, he was just being aggressive. I get it. Those things are going to happen, especially with this style of offense. But you do have to give him a little bit of a leeway because it was his first few snaps since tearing his ACL. Now, with that said, what do you do now? If we look at the last preseason game, I don't think most teams are going to play their starters. I just don't think.
But the last preseason game is Jets-Giants, baby.
I understand that.
It's for the Snoopy Bowl.
But is it worth it to risk him going out there again, especially if someone's trying to make the team, or especially if you don't start your starting, offensive, skill position and offensive? Is it worth it for him to get more reps? I'm going to say no, but I almost feel like I need to see him get more reps just so he gets that out.
Yeah, get that out of his system.
Get it out.
Because he can't throw that interception week 1 against the Vikings.
No,
Can't happen.
Because
he'll be crucified on the radio for hours.
They'll end up putting themselves in losing a position against a team that they are on paper better than.
Right.
And so you can't have those mistakes.
It's funny. So I'm sitting there on Saturday afternoon, and I don't know why I chose to watch the Giant game. I don't know why. I could have had the Yankee game on. I had the Giant game on, and I think it's in my blood that I miss football. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's almost Labor Day. I can smell it. The temperature has been just a little bit, tiny bit less over the last few days. And I'm like, oh, my God, get me football. I want you to inject it into my veins. I can't wait. So I sat there. And I swear to you, when Daniel Jones threw that pick six and threw his second interception and didn't play the greatest game ever, I wasn't saying this is the evidence on why I don't believe in him, because I don't think it matters. It's the freaking preseason.
True.
I don't think anything matters from the preseason. It was more the reminder of this is what this year is going to be about. It's going to be about Daniel Jones' last year as Giant quarterback. People will still argue he's elite, he sucks, it's the O-line's fault, it's that guy's fault, he's terrible, he's the best. It's going to be the same arguments we've had for a half a decade, when the truth is he's just average. He's an average guy, and the Giants have already told us we're looking to replace him. So I didn't look at his performance necessarily on Saturday against the Texans and say that's evidence of anything. Because at the end of the day, it is preseason, and good and bad, you don't want to read too much into what you see when it's fake football.
Yeah, and this is going to be all season long, I fear. If it's a good day, it's going to be I told you so. If it's a bad day, it's going to be I told you so. Because it's just fully split. Actually, it's more towards the negative side, but no matter what happens, it's going to be I told you so about Daniel Jones, and that's a tough spot for him to be in.
No.
Every single decision, every play, every whatever he does this year, it's going to be heavily evaluated.
We do have breaking news, and look, as down as I may be as a Met fan concerning their loss on Sunday afternoon to the Miami Marlins, and it bothered me.
Yeah.
And I hope you thought of me, Tiki. I hope you thought of me, Loogie, because if Jose Budo is available to pitch in Sunday's game against the Miami Marlins, maybe they don't blow that lead with Huáscar Brazoban and Reed Garrett.
He kind of got unlucky. Soft hits.
Stop it. He threw a wild pitch to tie the game.
I understand that, but, I mean, 4 of those hits were like 80 mile-an-hour exit velo.
Doesn't matter. He blew the game.
Bad.
But we do have breaking news concerning the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, I thought you were giving us Nemo news. What's this about the Braves?
Austin Riley has a right-hand fracture and is out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
So the Atlanta Braves, who are the team the Mets are only trailing by 2 games, an Atlanta Brave team that has not played well. They did win yesterday to increase their lead for the 3rd wildcard spot to 2 games. A team that is without Ozzie Albies, a team that is without Spencer Strider, a team that is without Ronald Acuna Jr., is now without Austin Riley. The hits keep coming to Atlanta, and so as depressed as I was driving home yesterday afternoon from Citi Field, as down as I was on that must-sweep series not ending in a sweep, and while I don't root for injury news, Tiki, what kind of human would I be? The New York Mets receive news that keeps them afloat in this wild card race, and that's the Atlanta Braves just had a massive, massive injury hit to them.
I mean, that's horrible for the Braves, but somehow the Braves just keep finding ways to stay afloat. The challenge for the Braves is that none of those guys, I mean, maybe Riley does, but a lot of those guys aren't coming back. All those other names you mentioned, they're not going to be available at any time this season or in the postseason. So it's a testament to the Braves that they're still hanging around despite 3, now 4 major injuries to important players. But the Mets still got to take care of business.
No doubt.
The Mets still should have swept, Miami. The Mets should not have lost their previous series to the A's. Like they have to take care of business.
Well, I was very upset when I was driving home Sunday, and my son Jet was crying because Not just because the Mets lost. He was upset that Uncle Loogie promised him that the Mets would sweep the Miami Marlins. He did that on the radio on Friday at Fanatics Fest. Jet asked me as we were leaving Fanatics Fest, is Loogie right? Is Loogie right? He said we're going to sweep the Marlins. I said, well, he's very positive. I hope he's right. I also repeated a line that Loogie's undefeated. Positive Tommy, never wrong. So I don't know how you're going to explain this, Mr. Lugauer, to my beautiful 7-year-old son, but you're wrong, and you made him cry on Sunday afternoon. How does that make you feel?
Jet, if you're listening, this is Uncle Loogie, Positive Tommy. I also told you the Mets would take 2 out of 3 from the Orioles, and they will have a successful homestand. So that promise is still intact.
Now you said they would sweep the Marlins.
Right, and now they need to sweep the Orioles to make up.
No, I think 2 out of 3.
No. You got to own the sweep of the Orioles.
What is this, Seinfeld, Paul O'Neill? I got to hit 2 home runs for this kid, too?
Absolutely it is.
Loogie!
You promised to sweep to my son and to everyone listening, and they didn't do it. So what you should do right now on 50,000 watts plus the Odyssey app is just simply apologize. It's okay. You're not perfect.
No, I would
apologize.
No, I would not apologize for my positivity. I will not do that because that would say that I did something wrong.
Well, you lied to a 7-year-old.
No. I did not lie. I did not lie to anybody. I was being positive. That's all. They won the series.
This is why you don't take ownership of something you have no control over. Because you end up owning it, and you don't have no control.
Exactly. We'll get to your calls coming up. For the Giant fans out there, this is our world. This is us. Daniel Jones is ours, but it's only for a year. So we're going to watch him quarterback. We're going to hope for the best, but we all know he's gone at the end of the year. Where's your confidence in him?